place for anybody to come in here and win.
Jim, it's been 10 years since a non-conference opponent's been able to come in this gym and win a game. Iowa's an outstanding team, top 20 ball club, but they've got to keep it close early if they expect to get out of here alive.
All right, Duke and Iowa next on CBS. This morning, they stormed the gym at last. A gym where Duke has won 35 straight and has not lost to a non-ACC opponent in over 10 years. But strange things can happen, and Duke is hoping to pick up the pieces after Georgia Tech's knockout performance last Sunday. CBS Sports welcomes you to the cozy confines called Cameron Indoor Stadium. Big Ten meets ACC today as 13th ranked Iowa faces number 3 Duke. This is one of college basketball's greatest scenes, Cameron Indoor Stadium. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Nance, and welcome to our CBS broadcast. 10 years ago this week, the last time a non-ACC team came to Cameron and beat the Duke Blue Devils. That was Louisville back in 1983. And Billy Packer, Iowa comes in here today with the kind of player in A.C. Earl that can really pose a threat to the two-time defending national champions.
I would agree, Jim. An excellent shot blocker. As we know, Iowa lost to Duke in the last 2 NCAA tournaments, but that young man right there had an excellent game against Duke University. As we said, a shot blocker, a young man who has made himself one of the great post players in college basketball.
He will be going against Cherokee Parks, the sophomore center for the Blue Devils. How has he handled the starting role this year?
I think very well, Jim. And as we know, he's coming off an outstanding game against Clemson University. He'll be called upon today to pull a big task in handling A.C. Earl in the middle.
All right, Billy, we talked to the 2 coaches, Tom Davis and Mike Krzyzewski, about how they see the game unfolding. Here are their comments.
They score a lot off of your turnovers. We got to rebound. I mean, they're killing people on the boards. And I think make them play half court and along with the rebounding, limit them to 1 shot. I think we'll be a more confident team than we have been during this past week because we'll be at home and because we're coming off a success.
Their pressure defense is so good, they just can drive you out of your offense if you're impatient or if you're not good enough with the basketball. They're so good in transition, Billy. They have really, you know, the Hills and Hurley, those 3 guys in transition, I don't know who we've ever seen that's better than those 3 guys in terms of getting the ball down and doing something with it at the business end of the court. And they're not bad at defense either. So they're really, really solid basketball team. And to beat them on the road, it's going to take, you know, one of our best games for sure.
All right, Billy, can Iowa do it today? And what about some of the Packer points as we approach tip-off?
Well, Jim, anything can happen in college basketball, as we have seen, but I think a key factor is here. Iowa turns the ball over a lot. Duke is a great pressure defensive team, particularly man-to-man. And if I'm Tom Davis, I know I've got to keep my team in the game in the first 10 minutes of this one, or else it'll be a long, long day.
Well, they've met the last 2 years in the NCAA tournament. Duke having knocked out the Hawkeyes in the 2nd round the last 2 years. Iowa and Duke from Durham, North Carolina, coming up next on CBS.
CBS Sports coverage of the road to the Final Four is sponsored by Oldsmobile, official car for NCAA championships. Prudential Securities, the most important thing we earn is your trust. And by Edge Shave Gel, ultimate closeness, ultimate comfort, that's the Edge.
Tom Davis in his 7th year at Iowa. Here are his starting players. Chris Street, good rebounder up front, along with Murray, a freshman, and A.C. Earl, their all-time shot blocker. In the backcourt, Val Barnes, along with Kevin Smith. Mike Krzyzewski, 5 straight Final Fours, 6 of the last 7. Back-to-back championships with Grant Hill as top scorer. Up front with Antonio Lang and Parks in the middle. In the backcourt, Bobby Hurley. averaging 18 points and 8 assists, with Thomas Hill, their third leading scorer, at 16 points per game. The officials come from the Big Ten: Art McDonald, Tom Clark, and Randy Drury. Earl tips it over to Barnes, and Iowa controls. Here's Smith at the point, going against Hurley. Two players of similar stature today, similar size.
Jim, one thing A.C. Earl does is he doesn't have to play only in the low post. As a matter of fact, foul line, he doesn't mind moving outside. That calls on Parks to do a lot of work.
Street missed on the driving layup attempt. Here's Hurley. Good flip back to Hill, who traveled with it when he went to the wing with Thomas Hill. I said Hurley and Smith similar in stature, not similar in productivity. I don't mean that to imply that.
Well, the key for Smith today, obviously, is not to turn the ball over, keep his team in some semblance of offense. And here's what I was talking about A.C. Earl. He steps outside and tries to make plays. He's a very unorthodox player for a center, particularly on the offensive end.
Iowa 12-2 on the year, coming in here off a win against Minnesota, their first Big Ten victory. They're 1-2 in the conference.
Now, Parks has not been used to going out and having to play a man on that perimeter.
Grant Hill forces the steal. He reached around to knock it away. Parks posting up A.C. Earl. Nice deflected. Yep. But right back to Lang.
Another one.
2 blocks on this possession and a tie-up situation. The arrow belongs to Duke. The last 2 years, as we mentioned in the Open, these teams have met in the second round. Duke beat them in 91, 85-70 in Minneapolis at the Metrodome. Then last year in Greensboro, Duke led by 24 at the half. Iowa got back within 8 with 8 minutes to go, but eventually Duke advanced with a 13-point victory.
Parks does not look opposite of where the ball came. Hurley was wide open. Now they reverse it.
Here's the three.
Good block out.
On one bounce, the rebound comes to Smith. They push it up the floor quickly, but Barnes double dribbled with it.
Val Barnes has really had some productive games of late. 27 against Ohio State, 24 of those in the second half. So he's a guy that can score, and working on a number of double-figure scoring games so far this year.
11 in a row, Billy. And here's Thomas Hill just inside the three-point line for the game's first points. Thomas Hill.
Earl got caught in a mismatch, and there's Smith, a guy, Jim, as you pointed out, productivity-wise, doesn't even match Hurley because he is not a good shooter and doesn't take that many shots. But where he's so dangerous is penetration, as we saw right there. And an interesting thing in practice yesterday, Mike Krzyzewski told Bobby, even though he's a right-handed player, force him to go down the right-hand side of the court so that it takes him out of their offense.
So Hurley picks up a foul. 5 count, then not penetrate in 5 seconds, and it's a turnover. Duke basketball.
And there was a case where Smith had nobody cutting to the ball, and against the Bobby Hurley, you've either got to penetrate to get him off you, because with those quick feet, he stays so close within that guarding distance.
Into the front court to Parks.
See his own defense now playing the 1-3-1. And that A.C. Earl is down on the baseline, putting him in excellent rebounding position. A little matchup off it.
Early. Missed a couple of threes in the early action.
See, most teams that play that 1-3-1 use a small man on the baseline.
Barnes up the back of the rim. And Murray reached in on Thomas Hill to commit Iowa's first foul. Here's the list of schools that have won consecutive championships. Of course, UCLA had a 7-year streak, but Duke joining Cincinnati, San Francisco, Kentucky, and Oklahoma State.
And Jim, back in 1956, San Francisco, that won back-to-backs, beat Iowa in that final game. The great fabulous 5 teams of Iowa in 55 and 56.
Thomas Hill missed the jumper. Street. And Iowa has tied it with the first bucket of the game for the Hawkeyes.
Here you see the 1-3-1 setup. Street starts out on the top, then drops back down in low. And they get out of the setup, go back to their man-to-man.
Grant Hill, that was a 2, and Earl snags the rebound.
And an ugly looking shot. Really have Duke spread out nicely. Excellent spacing by Iowa, so therefore these screens away from the ball set up the cutter in pretty good shape.
Smith will reset. 15 on the shot clock. Caught in traffic, gives it up to Murray. Blocked by Hill. He leads the team in steals, rebounds, scoring, and block shots. He's already had a steal and a block in this early action. Here's a jumper. Parks, a little short. It rattles off the backboard. Front of the rim backboard. Here comes Iowa.
Well, you can see this great rebounding technique of Iowa. Duke is getting one shot and done. Iowa with an 18.6 rebound advantage over their opponents, the best going.
The best in the nation, Billy, as you say. Rebound margin. And, you know, they lost 2 Big Ten games to Indiana and Ohio State, but they out-rebounded one of them, Indiana, by 15 boards.
Exactly, and the other thing that was interesting there is that the difference in the game was the Rick Pitino factor. In this case of Ohio State, 11 threes, and Indiana 10.
James Winters and Jim Bartles in for Iowa. Winters number 23, Bartles 44. Earl short on the jumper, and Hurley sees a lane, has the 2-on-1 set up for Hill. Great hustle. Bartles blocked it away.
How often do you see that? Somebody steal one on the lob to Grant Hill. Good play by Bartles. I really think Bobby Hurley actually on this play made it tougher than it needed to be. A bounce pass across the lane would have been better than the lob, but it gave Bartles time to catch up to the play.
Officials timeout. Look at the score, only 2-2. Duke at home, they can tie the all-time ACC record of North Carolina State back in the David Thompson era with their 36th straight win if they do in fact win today. But Billy, the 77 straight wins against non-ACC opponents. 10 years ago this week, they lost to Louisville. But do you know that they lost the home game before that, too?
Is that right? You've got me.
Wagner beat them the home game before. And what many have said is the low point of Duke basketball. They rebuilt from that. Wagner beat them in the game at home prior to the Louisville game 10 years ago.
And, you know, Jim, you talk about those streaks. It was funny that Louisville and Denny Crum's program is the last people that beat Georgia Tech on their home court non-opponent, too, the team that beat Duke, of course, just this past week. There's the zone again, packed back inside.
Duke only 1 out of 8 from the floor. Iowa 1 for 5. Hill.
Rebounding.
And Street had a hand in the face of Hill when he went up with the jumper.
Winters in there now with another solid rebound, and Duke is getting 1 shot and done.
Jay Webb, number 42, is in for Iowa.
Jim, Tom Davis has a theory in regard to substituting early. He said if you substitute a player before he really gets tired, he can come back in 30 seconds. If you wait till he's exhausted, it may be 2 minutes before he's ready to come back, replenish, to go full speed. So he went to the bench early with his big people.
Good move that time, but missed the reverse layup, did Smith.
Both teams doing a great job on the defensive boards. No putbacks at all today. Matter of fact, not much of anything here today.
No, really.
And as I said at the top of the show, Tom Davis's job to keep his team tight at the start of the game so that Duke doesn't get on a run. And they've been able to do that.
That's about as far out as you'll see Antonio Lang shoot, and he buries the jumper. 4-2 Duke, 6 minutes into the game. Webb, turn around with Parks right in his face. Offensive rebound by Winters. Right back to Street.
There's 2 solid rebounds on the offensive board. Street is really great at it.
Early behind the back to Thomas Hill. In traffic. Hill has 4 of Duke's 6 points. Street has all 4 of Iowa's points.
Key thing there was the experience of Thomas Hill on that play. Just a good, smart ball player. Took his time, didn't rush the shot, so he had a soft touch inside.
Winters slicing through the lane and setting up Street. He has all 6 for Iowa, tying the game right now at 6-all.
There you see a 1-3-1 full court pressure. Drop back. And then Street goes all the way from the top on the pressure all the way back inside to get rebounding position and pulls it off.
That two spinning out of the hoop for Hill, out of bounds off Iowa. Commons coming in for Duke along with Marty Clark. Bartles and Smith head back to the Iowa bench as Looking Bill comes in for Iowa.
Jim, one of the reasons I think we're going to see Collins in this game, obviously, is to go ahead and attack on the perimeter with the jump shot.
And a near steal, but Hurley set up for the three in the corner.
Winners just couldn't get there in time.
Monteer Glasper is in for Iowa as they keep making changes. In fact, only one starter on the floor right now for the Hawkeyes. That's Barnes.
He's got Collins on him. Big task for Collins. Going up against a scorer as experienced as Barnes. They ought to get it to him, and there he is.
Barnes over, took a
bad shot.
Hill slipped on the rebound try. Loose ball comes out to Hurley, and they called a foul on Looking Bill.
Jimmy, young man who was the basketball player of the year in Iowa coming out of high school. Looking Bill was looking forward to an excellent career, but that back injury has put him in a position he's never recovered to be probably what would have been a real fine Big Ten basketball player.
6'5" senior from Fort Dodge, Iowa. He's already graduated, as has A.C. Earl. And now back in is Earl and Murray for Iowa.
Is that semi-pressure just to take Duke out of an opportunity to come down for an easy setup? The 1-3-1 zone. A.C. Earl down on the baseline. Nice rotation there.
Boy, great passing around. Hurley again gets the three from the same spot on the floor.
And this is going to be a tough defense for Iowa to handle Duke, because with Collins in the game, you've got Collins and you've got Hurley and you've got Clark, three guys that can make that shot on the perimeter.
Murray scores on the transition basket for Iowa. 12-8 Duke. Marty Clark's given his team some solid minutes lately.
Tough pass.
That time, tried to get it inside Delang. Collins picks up the loose ball. Hurley tries another one.
Quick release.
Three straight for Hurley from three-point range.
And give Collins a lot of credit on that play, not only for the pickoff, but realizing where Hurley was on the wing. Good play.
Timeout on the floor, Duke by 7.
Marty Clark double team in the corner. You're going to see some great ball rotation now for a score to Bobby Hurley. One pass, two passes, reverse it. Bobby Hurley in the corner, not even visible originally on the screen, hits for the three. Great play by Duke University.
Hurley, one of only 4 ACC players to nail at least 200 three-pointers in his career, along with Dennis Scott, Rodney Monroe, and Jeff Lebo. Duke on a 9-2 run and leading 15-8. Back to the starting 5 for Iowa.
And Jim, you see where he put Smith that time, right down the right-hand sideline. It took Iowa right out of their offense. Smith would like to go down the middle or bring it down the left-hand side so they can screen away and get A.C. Earl the ball, as he likes to set up over on the right-hand side of the floor. Double stack now.
Barnes back to the rim. Oh, and Hill.
So those are two of the finest 6'8" players on the boards that you'll see in college basketball. Grant Hill, as we all know, one of the real rebounders in the country, and of course going up on the inside with Street. He has his hands full.
Street is 3rd in the Big Ten in rebounding. Here's Earl. Long rebound to Murray. Sets up the three for Smith.
They'll let him have that shot. And there's that offensive rebounding again.
Another try. Earl this time puts it back.
A.C. Earl.
Jim, we're talking about some unbelievable rebounding stats by this club. 18.6 more per game than their opponent.
Collins misses the three. And Street has another rebound. 4 rebounds to this point. Good bounce pass back door to Barnes. And Iowa's within 3, 15-12 midway through the first half.
You can see what this press does. It just takes Duke out of the ability to force the ball quickly up the court and getting into their offense. And then Street goes all the way back down inside. You would think that Duke could take advantage of it when he makes his transition from the point man on the press to the back man on the zone.
Clark, with help from a screen, had an open jumper. Street with another rebound.
Jim, what's interesting, we talked about A.C. Earl, too, in regard to rebounding. Both Street and Winters have captured more rebounds in a given game than has A.C. Earl, whose high all-time is just 13.
Barnes with a jumper. Iowa on a 6-point run to cut within 1 the Duke lead.
There's the presser.
And the steal by Barnes. He'll challenge Clark off the glass, and Iowa's taking the lead at 16-15.
Duke has got to go over the top of this press on that initial pass. They had the right idea before, because if you break it then, you've got an opportunity to go down the court with big numbers. Back to man goes Iowa.
Hurley. Wild pass. Retrieved by Clark. Clark wants to take it right to the hole.
You could forecast that one.
You did. Smith.
See, you can't, Jim, when you've got a great shot blocker in the game as Iowa has right now, and you're a Duke player, you cannot commit that far away from the basket. He's just going to be waiting on you.
Hurley pulls up.
It's the right idea.
And that's Iowa basketball. Iowa has scored 10 unanswered.
Here you see Marty Clark. Now, he is about 20 feet from the basket when he makes his move, so there's no place for him to go. A.C. Earl stays right on the ground, waits for him, and bats it away to start the fast break.
Winters looking Bill back in, along with Glasper for Iowa. Loose ball, good strength. Earl, a little out of control on that one. Smith gets the rebound, and that's Glasper with the putback.
Great run by Iowa right here. They have taken Duke completely out of their game. Nobody coming to meet the ball.
That's Kenny Blakeney, number 4, in for Duke. Seeing his first action today. Thomason will bring it into the front court.
Duke being forced to substitute early on before they can get any semblance of offense going.
Parks. Earl got a hand on it. Ball tipped up a couple of times. Winters underneath. Over to Earl.
It's a great rebounding team, Jim. It's not because they're so tall. They just box out so well. Another backdoor cut.
Good bounce pass. Parks had the block from behind. They call a tie-up situation. And the arrow belongs to Iowa.
Here's a good job by Cherokee Parks from behind. Doesn't use his body at all. Excellent call right on the ball.
Another officials timeout, and Iowa with 12 unanswered has the 5-point lead. And Billy Packer witnessing Iowa's run of 12 points, and they've grabbed the last 10 rebounds. And while we were away in that timeout, Mike Krzyzewski was hit with a technical.
Now, Jimmy was staring down the official, and this year, not only actions, but also language is something you get yourself in trouble as a coach. And obviously, right there, he got the attention of the official. And there is a technical foul, obviously, a 2-shot deal, and it's going to help extend Iowa's lead.
Now, coming to the free throw line is Chris Street. He has made 30. Actually, they're going to send Looking Bill to the line.
You know, that's really something, Jim. You anticipate that, as I would have as well. He's got, what, 32? Right. Had an opportunity to tie the school record.
Looking Bill for 2. We'll shoot one more. Lead is now up to 6. Yeah, I thought Street would be the man.
Maybe they had a foul shooting. And you can pick anybody you want if you're Tom Davis. So it was his chance, so he goes with the senior. And you know, it was funny when they were shooting free throws yesterday in practice, even their own teammates were doing that hand waving stuff to get them ready for the Duke students. It sure didn't. That was a good choice by Tom Davis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure worked. Can't question that one.
Dr. Tom, how about that thesis that he wrote, Jim? Huh? You familiar with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Athletics in the colonies of Virginia and Massachusetts. Something we already...
It was really a study of the Puritans to see if they believed in physical activity back in colonial Virginia in the 1700s.
Here you see a big pickup. Iowa extends their offense out higher, giving an opportunity for a backdoor cut. Duke really picking up the intensity now defensively. And Iowa well coached, obviously keeps hold of the ball. There's a switch, but Parks doesn't stay with it.
On the line, Webb was on the line. I think Smith was passing it to him all the way. They do that sometimes.
Yeah, he might have anticipated that with the switch, he would have a chance for a lob cross court, but it would have had to have been perfect. And the press has really given Duke a lot of trouble. Not that they've turned the ball over, but it's taken them out of their offense. They're wasting the time getting it up court and then not setting up.
Iowa's lone starter on the floor is Smith. Winters, Webb, Bartles, and Lookingbill on the floor with them.
If a team's going to press like that, you have to make them pay for that with some easy baskets. Duke not doing it.
Grant Hill.
Breaks the streak.
Yeah, a streak that not only had run up to 14 unanswered points, but over 5 minutes without scoring for Duke. Hurley reaching in, and they say a tie-up situation.
Good strength by Hurley.
The arrow belongs to Iowa.
Now, you remember, the arrow was Duke before the technical. Remember that? And Duke lost. And let's see, this is going to be interesting right here. Duke had possession on the last jump balls. Remember, Parks blocked the shot. It was Duke's arrow. Then
and everybody here knows it.
Yeah, but they lost it because the technical on Mike. And so now it's Iowa's ball again. So Duke lost 2 things on that technical. Now, what's happening here is Mike Krzyzewski bringing it to the attention of the referee, saying, wait a second. We had the arrow. We lost the possession on the technical. And now comes the explanation. Now, in something like this, we're not talking about a correctable error here. Now, this is where, if you're a coach, you want to get right in him.
Lasper checking in for Iowa. And Earl has returned along with Street. So it is Iowa basketball. Billy, you're all over that. They've got him jammed in the corner, but they find an open man. Street gives it up. Good passing. Earl gets it in.
Boy, Barnes did a nice job getting rid of that ball. And again, there's an opportunity. Beat the press over the top. One of the things that saves Iowa, you're not going to be able to take it all the way to the basket for a layup because of AC Earl, but you can get short jump shots. And Duke just hasn't worked on that today.
Iowa leads by 7. Hill wanting to challenge Street.
AC Earl.
Knocked away. Blakeney goes to the hole and a reach-in foul on Lasper. Well, tomorrow on the NFL Today, as Dallas gets set to battle San Francisco for the NFC Championship, join Greg and Terry as they give you the latest on the 2 teams, plus the sad story of the Candlestick Park turf and the preparations both teams are making to play on it. Plus a look at Steve Young as he gets set for the biggest start of his career. That's tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern on the NFL Today.
Jim, you know what else that Iowa has done a great job on in this first half? They have kept Duke off the foul line, which is always one of their tremendous weapons. And when you think about it, Tom Davis as a versatile coach, any of the top coaches in the country have this ability. In '88, his teams averaged 102 points a game, the highest scoring average ever for a Big Ten team in that league. And now he is playing an entirely different type of game with this squad. That was a walk.
Blakeney missed the 2 free throws, but Duke back on the attack again. Hill, good pass to Hurley. Oh, and blocked from behind. And Earl lost it out of bounds.
Has an excellent block. Great hustle by Street. He's some kind of athlete, that kid. Boy, just hustles, works. Great athlete, good quickness.
Lang comes in for Blakeney.
Tim, we talk about football. Street, what, passed for over 4,000 yards in high school as a football player?
6'8".
Yeah, he'd have a target out there.
Hayden Fry wanted him to play on the football team. They had a 6'8" quarterback one time, Danny McGuire, Mark McGuire's brother, who's now with Seattle, later transferred to San Diego State.
I think the shot blocking is starting to get to Duke even on the jump shots. They're hesitating when they put it up.
Winters pulled down that rebound. 5 minutes remaining in the first half. Iowa 24-17.
And you can remember last year at halftime, Duke had doubled the score on Iowa in the NCAA tournament, and then Iowa had the great run in the second half.
In fact, this point total right now was exactly what Iowa had in the first half. It was 48, however, for Duke. 24. Murray back in for Winters. And Glasper goes out as Smith returns.
Well, from our vantage point, it's pretty easy to see what Duke has got to do to get back in this game against that press. But down on the floor, it's pretty hard to operate.
Earl, he gets rejected this time by Parks from behind. Hill
can't take it in there against him.
He went up with the right hand. He's a lefty, shot it right-handed. And he'll go to the line to shoot 2. Duke has scored 2 points in the last 7 minutes. Iowa is second in the nation in field goal percentage defense, allowing only 36.7 from the opponent. And Duke's numbers today, 32%. Remember, they started 1 out of 9. Now Hill will go to the line for 2. A.C. Earl is called on the foul, his first, 4th team foul against Iowa.
Then Texas Pan Am, that played against Iowa earlier in this year, only shot 23% in the whole game. And you figure a club like Indiana that's got great shot selection, shot 44% against them. Ohio State in their big win and did it primarily with threes, only shot 39%.
Thomas Hill, the 3rd leading scorer. He was 2nd to Leitner last year. And the year before that, 3rd on the team behind Leitner and McCaffrey. And McCaffrey this week really helped Duke's cause to maybe climb back to number 1.
That's right.
As he had 14 assists in Vanderbilt's upset of number 1 Kentucky.
22 points, 14 assists. And of course played a major factor a couple of years ago against Iowa in the NCAA tournament.
Well, they reset the clock on the kick.
And would love to play in this game, and I'll tell you why. He's the guy that can shoot that short perimeter jumper against the press.
Hurley racing, Smith after him. Hurley has 11 of Duke's 20.
Nice. Good defense by Cherokee Park, stepping outside.
Reach in. Grant Hill really got that steal started. Hurley lobs it to Thomas Hill. Oh, yes, it is. Just glanced off his fingertips.
What an effort by Thomas Hill. The ball was actually mistimed, and he just stayed up there. Remind us of Grant Hill against Kansas, huh?
In the early minutes of the championship game, the one that was seemingly too high to retrieve. Grant Hill was able to dunk it home somehow. That time Thomas Hill let it graze off his fingertips and banked it home.
You know, surprisingly, Iowa had better offensive movement with the substitutes in the game than they have with their starters. Duke overplaying all the passes. Expect some reverse angle cuts here from Iowa with some screens in the back line.
Smith. And Parks blocking out with the rebound.
Well, his mom's here today. First time she's ever seen him play in person here at Duke. He's having a good first half.
Iowa on the break. Parks defending. Street on the follow, however, and he is hammered by Hill. Let's take another glance at this beauty by Thomas Hill.
Bobby Hurley just threw it up there. Tremendous effort. Oh, you can see it almost doubled his back. S shape and still got his hands on the ball.
Thomas Hill was really cold in that game we had last Sunday, Billy, against Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Thomas was only 3 out of 13, a rarity to see him have that kind of shooting performance.
Martise Moore, the freshman from Georgia Tech, in the second half doing a fine job defensively on him.
You saw Parks go to the bench. Eric Meek has replaced him.
That ties the school record.
And now a chance to break. That's 33 straight he has made. And a chance to break Ben McGilmer's record. And an official's timeout. Ben McGilmer back in 1969 had the Iowa record, 33 straight. Street has made it 34 in a row. Iowa by 4.
The club is open to all youngsters.
Back at Cameron Indoor Stadium, Iowa leading Duke here in the first half. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Joyce. Coming up at halftime, we'll have the story of a college coach helping to keep alive the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King, and we'll dig Greg and Terry out of the mud in San Francisco for a preview of the NFC Championship game. Now back up to Jim and Billy.
All right, Andrea, good to have you with us. We're just hanging out way above Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Watch your forehead, Jim. I can go underneath that beam. You could have an accident.
So unusual to call a basketball game from up top instead of courtside, but I like the angle from up here, Billy.
The angle is great, and particularly if you were scouting a team. This is where you want to see it, because you can see the cuts, you can see the openings against the zone, and there is the zone defense being played right now by Iowa.
The only thing we need is an air conditioner.
You're not going to see it here. We're lucky it's cool.
Hill.
Outside, it's cool. Jim, you know, we talked about all the things that are going to happen in that football game tomorrow. I think the MVP has already been crowned. George Toma, what would we call him? What do we call him? The grass surgeon? Kind of guy. Well, no, he's not a groundskeeper. He's a grass surgeon.
Turf doctor.
He's a surgeon. I mean, you know, let's face it, he has taken
grassologist.
I understand that field is going to be the best in the NFL tomorrow, and it will be amazing to see. So, as a guy that likes to work in the yard, my hat's off for the MVP being the grass surgeon.
You might need to hire him, Billy. Come out and help you out.
No, my yard's in good shape.
Parks, you saw he had a wrapping. He's on the Duke bench with that ankle being looked at. Hill hits the free throws. Now, a minute ago, we saw Street make his 34th in a row free throw streak, and a timeout by Street. What's the all-time record, Billy?
The all-time record?
In the NCAA.
Yeah, it's held by a woman. How about that? That'll put...
All right, we'll have the answer for you, folks, when we come back.
This 64-minute video highlights the entire history of Duke basketball, including an extensive look at the early years, the 60s, and the modern era of back-to-back championships. Get your copy today.
Actually,
all right,
the question is
Jenny Doyle.
So compelling.
Jenny Doyle from Richmond.
All right. How many row did she make?
68, 69, something like that.
All right, who holds the men's Division I record? I didn't say 1A.
I'm supposed to know that, Jim.
Joe Dykstra.
No, I wouldn't have known it.
Western Illinois. He made 64 in a row back in 1981 through the 81-82 season. 64 in a row for Western Illinois, the Leathernecks.
Well, Jenny Doyle holds the all-time record, men, women, and children. And I guarantee you, I know for a fact, because she took me on and just wore me out.
She made 66 in a row.
66.
We just looked it up.
All right.
You're making me look bad.
Yeah, well, I know what she did against me, 20 in a row, and sent me home crying.
And what did you make?
I don't want to talk about it, Jim. You're embarrassing me here.
That was a timeout called by Iowa. You saw it. The Hawkeyes leading 26-24 with 2:14 left in the first half.
You know, Jim, one of the things that in forecasting a little bit the polls, because I think right now that we're starting to get into real crunch time in the major conferences. We saw Indiana's great win, one of the outstanding games of the year against Michigan. We saw Kentucky losing at Vanderbilt. Eddie Fogler's team doing a tremendous job there. Duke finds themselves in a position. They've been in the #1 spot 23 out of the last 26 weeks. And I really think that if they win today, which they're really in some trouble here, and then they have tomorrow, and this will be a trivia question for years to come. What was the last team in the 92-93 season to be unbeaten, which is Virginia, as we all know now. A couple years from now, you'll never remember that. But, you know, that would give them a situation to be right back in the #1 slot again.
No question.
A lot of work ahead, though.
If they win out over the weekend, today and tomorrow against Virginia, they will be #1 since the top two have already lost, Kentucky and Michigan.
There's a little strategy we see often, the old Al McGuire strategy. A team that likes to press you doesn't like to be pressed, so go pick them up early. Again, they're trying to force everything down the right-hand side to take Iowa out of that screening for A.C. Earl. See how Hill's forcing them down the right. Normally, you try to force teams to their weak hand.
One on the shot clock. And Street almost got the
rebounds again.
Earl underneath. Swung by Thomas Hill.
Two great plays by Hill, one on each end of the floor.
Outside, a foul called. Foul called against Winters. Well, next Saturday, Billy, will be in Las Vegas. Not only Harrington against Ryder, but Thompson against Massimino, the two coaches who dueled in the '85 championship game. Georgetown and UNLV next Saturday at 4 Eastern on CBS. 1:20 to go in the first half.
There's the 1-2-2 zone. Watch the man in the middle, Winters. Watch where he goes when the ball passes down to a wing. There he goes, all the way to the side. He came from the top of the key all the way to the side. That is a long switch and very difficult to make, and something Duke really took advantage of there.
Grant Hill ties it at 26.
It's been a game of runs, Jim. There again, forcing down the right-hand side. And you see how it's really throwing Iowa off.
The main run was 14 unanswered by Iowa. And here's a basket inside. Winters slams it.
He went over Grant Hill, who was waiting for the block. Powerful leaper is Winters.
Now Duke and Hurley. Let's watch him execute the final shot.
You know, Smith is talking to him. He's saying, come on, Bobby, take me. He realized what Duke will do is set up the 1-4 and try to go Hurley against Smith one-on-one, and Smith's asking for it. It's like Duke trying to set up a little twirl move here for Grant Hill or Thomas Hill. There it is, Thomas Hill.
Hill drives in the paint. Ties it at 28.
Well, Duke was tied at halftime against Wake Forest, 33 all. Here they find themselves 28 all with Iowa.
Well, they went on to win that game in a big fashion earlier this week against Wake. But at the end of the first half, the score, Iowa 28, Duke 28. And Andrea Joyce will be along with the Prudential Securities at the half. After this message and a word from your local station.
Sports presents Prudential Securities at the half. Sponsored by Prudential Securities. The most important thing we earn is your trust.
Back at Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, we've got a great game, 28 all at halftime. Hello again, everyone. I'm Andrea Joyce. Welcome to the Prudential Securities at the half. We've got a lot of basketball news today, so let's quickly turn our attention to the college basketball scoreboard. First off, at Chrysler Arena today, it was #2 Michigan over Notre Dame. The Wolverines have won 8 straight over the Fighting Irish, dating back to 1970. #5 North Carolina, a winner today over Clemson. The Tar Heels improved to 4-0 in the ACC. It was #17 Purdue over Penn State. Glenn Robinson, 21 points and 14 rebounds today for the Boilermakers. And in Philadelphia, #20 Georgetown over Villanova by 10. Wildcats have now lost 4 straight Big East games. And earlier today, right here at Cameron Indoor Stadium in women's action, #3 Maryland trounced the Duke women 82-51. Well, the basketball world is mourning the loss today of coaching legend Henry Iba. Iba died yesterday of heart failure. He was 88 years old. After coaching for 41 years, Iba was considered by some to be the greatest teacher in the history of the game. In his 36 years at Oklahoma State, Iba became the first coach to win back-to-back national titles in 45 and 46. In the 60s, he coached 2 Olympic gold medal teams. But ironically, his most memorable game was a controversial loss, the 1972 gold medal game against the Soviet Union. Iba returned to Olympic glory as Bobby Knight's special assistant in '84. He was known as an innovator. His philosophy influenced countless players and coaches, including men like Don Haskins and Eddie Sutton.
The one thing as I look back, I'm so pleased that I was able to come back to Oklahoma State, and we had the success we enjoyed the last 2 years. That really meant a lot to him.
Well, this is the home of the Cameron Crazies, and it has been a crazy first half here at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke and Iowa all tied at 28 apiece. Well, tomorrow afternoon, it'll be the Bills and the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game down in Miami. Teams are healthy. The weather is expected to be beautiful, temperatures in the 70s and sunny skies. That, however, has not exactly been the case in San Francisco, where the 49ers host the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game tomorrow. Rain has turned Candlestick Park into a soggy mess. And for more on that and the game, here's Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw.
If you know what the weather has been like this week in Northern California, you know this is a rare and unusual sight, a somewhat clear day here in San Francisco. Welcome to Candlestick Park, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. This is the site of tomorrow's NFC Championship game between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. The field here has been a major source of concern, and the NFL has sent its turf guru, George Toma, in to take care of things. I asked George what kind of shape the field will be in for tomorrow's game.
I would say now, the field the way it is, that it is the best grass in the NFL right now. And if it rains, there'll be no problem. I say the field would be 75% better than Miami's field is for tomorrow's game.
The weather outlook for tomorrow is not promising. Weather forecasters are expecting a 90% chance of rain, heavy at times, with temperatures in the mid-50s. Now, earlier, here at Candlestick, the Dallas Cowboys showed up to get themselves a look.
Well, you know, just talking to George, he says the field's going to be in great shape, especially down the middle, so evidently it's going to be better than what it was last week and shouldn't be of any concern.
Well, yeah, I think our whole team is coming in with a lot of confidence. We know it's not going to be a cakewalk. We know it's going to be definitely a hard-fought ball game, so it's going to be pretty difficult.
And I'm joined now by Terry Bradshaw. And Terry, considering the situation with the field, what's your take on the game?
Well, Greg, this is a game that you have to, first of all, just look at the weather and know if it starts raining right off the bat, here's what you have to happen. Your quick trapping game up the middle has to come early. Your sweeps, your reverses, all your gadget stuff has to come early. And when you get right down to the game, it's just two things that's pretty simple. Number one and foremost is who can control the ball, who can hold on to it and not give the ball away. That's the most important thing. And then secondly, I think the teams have to run the football. Who can run in this stuff after it gets wet is the one that can control the clock. And the third thing is, if you get up on either one of these teams that gets up by 10 or 14 points, man, that is going to be extremely difficult considering the conditions, if it's raining, for the other team to come back and win the game.
All right. We'll be here tomorrow with a special edition of the NFL Today. It begins at 3:30 Eastern Time, preceding the NFC title game between the 49ers and the Cowboys. Right now, let's go back to Andrea Joyce.
All right, guys, stay dry. Now back to college basketball. Mississippi is leading Alabama at halftime, 32-29. Now, this is Rob Evans' first season as head coach at Ole Miss. It's also the first time an African-American has held that position at the school. With Martin Luther King Day coming up on Monday, Rob Evans took time out to reflect on the importance of his hiring.
It's just been really a blessing that I was able to come to Ole Miss and again be part of some change and be part of progression. It's been very significant for me, and that's the dream that Dr. King was talking about, and that's the dream that I'm living right now.
On the court, this may not be a dream season at Ole Miss, but it is a season of remarkable change. Even the Confederate flag, the unofficial flag of the rebels, the one that was offensive to many, has been replaced, another symbol of a new era for Mississippi.
I think Martin Luther King would be very happy with the fact that Rob Evans is the coach at Ole Miss, because certainly it shows that in a 30-year period of time, dramatic change has occurred at the University of Mississippi.
Some of the things that Dr. King talked about in the 60s is coming to fruition and has come to fruition, that people are being accepted for people, and I think that's what makes a better world.
We wish Rob Evans the best of luck. He, of course, would also like a better basketball team. Since joining the SEC in 1908, Ole Miss has never won a conference title in basketball. He's got his work cut out for him. That's it for us at halftime. Thanks for joining us. Jim Nantz and Billy Packer will be back with the second half of Iowa Duke after this message and a word from your local station.
Prudential Securities at the half was sponsored by Prudential Securities. The most important thing we earn is your trust. Final Four is sponsored by the people at Nike, who encourage you to just do it. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. And by Sinex, the only decongestant spray with Vicks vapors. For sinus, think Sinex.
Well, back to the tents after this game ends, and back in line for tickets for tomorrow's game against Virginia. In fact, they'll keep the tents up, they say, until
it's February 3rd.
Yeah,
for the North Carolina game. Yeah,
distributed for that game. We are tied at halftime, 28 all, and the field goal percentage pretty even.
Well, it's even, Jim, but Duke is shooting 54% on the year and only 40% now, so Iowa getting there.
And big rebounding edge to the Hawkeyes, who lead the nation in rebound margin. Turnovers, Iowa, still that's low for both teams.
It is, and Duke had 9 points off of turnovers.
Street, leading scorer for Iowa, and Hurley for Duke. By the way, something to look out for in the last 5 games in the opening 5 minutes of the second half. First 5 minutes of the second half, Duke has outscored the opponent 62-24.
And Jim, that's what I was talking about at the start of the game. It's important for Tom Davis to keep his team in it at the start, which he did, and as a matter of fact had a lead. And the same will hold true here. You got to keep the fans out of the game.
Murray almost makes the steal. Freshman from Battle Creek, Michigan, back to Duke.
Jim, when you talked about Duke, and one of the things that's got to be a concern for Mike Krzyzewski, they scored 28 points in the first half. But as both of you and I were looking over the stat sheets, 26 came from 3 players. That is not a good sign for a team that's trying to get back to national championship in the Final Four again.
That's 26 of the 28 from the 3H company. Hill, and Hurley. And here's Grant. Three-pointer missing.
That would have only been his second 3 of the year.
And Hurley, Parks on the follow, had to hang on the rim just for safety's sake.
He better hustle because Earl's open. Duke straight man-to-man all day. Iowa changing up their defenses.
Retains possession. You see A.C. Earl, 7 rebounds in the first half. They credited him, Billy, with only 2 blocks.
Well, I think that that stat is way out of line. They show Iowa for only 3 blocks as a team.
Good rebound by Parks. Here's the lob to Hill.
And you see, when Iowa doesn't score, they don't get a chance to effectively use that press. Street open, he wants the ball, and Murray doesn't get it to him. There goes that reverse cut. Smith's got to be careful. Hurley's good at picking up that 5-second count.
Street set for the 3. Rebound by Lang.
Hurley probably missed Grant Hill on that one.
Lang, he made 1 jumper in the first half. Long rebound to Barnes. Barnes gets it back on the wing. That would have tied it. Follows his miss. Tip-up try by Street, and Parks secures another rebound.
Well, Cherokee did not score in the first half, but he's really doing a job defensively and on the boards. What a reverse dribble by Bobby Hurley.
Lang underneath. And a foul. And a foul.
Hurley's crossover dribble was incredible on that play. Alley-oop. Grant Hill all the way. Street didn't turn his head, see the ball, And here's a move that Hurley keeps right on going down the lane. I think he surprised A.C. Earl. In fact, that he took it right to him. And Lang on the follow-up.
Billy, I want to mention before we have a chance, in the next 2 weeks, Morgan Wooten at DeMatha will go for his 1,000th victory, so we wish him well. One of his former assistants is an assistant. Oh, that's an air ball by Lang. But one of Wooten's former assistants is an assistant for Krzyzewski, Mike Bray. He's only been here 5 years, and all 5 years they've gone to the Final Four. He'll be a hot property at the end of this season, that's for sure.
I'll tell you a pretty hot property, a former assistant. There was the lob, set play with the back screen.
Winters. Who's that, Billy?
How about Eddie Folker that beat Kentucky? He's a former assistant at DeMatha, as are a number of fellas who have worked under the tutelage of Morgan Wooten, one of the great teachers. We talked about the passing of Coach Iba today. I think that Morgan Wooten also falls in that category, one of the great teachers of basketball in the history of the game.
Legend.
One in the Hall of Fame, and one day hopefully we'll get there, getting recognition for a job on the high school level that's been non-parallel.
Hurley spinning around. Parks in
left hand.
Yep, nice. Soft.
Well, they wonder if he can fill Christian Leitner's shoes. That's the kind of shot Leitner would put up.
His first 2 points of the game. 5 rebounds to go with it. Parks wearing those goggles. He was scratched in the eye in a pickup game with former Duke player Johnny Dawkins before the season.
Well, that was great hustle by Parks because he got picked off and still beat A.C. Earl to the spot.
Street wants to challenge Lang. Hill came to help out and knocked it out of bounds. Iowa wearing the yellow uniforms they save only for the big games. They've worn them twice this year, the 2-0 with wins against Iowa State and Minnesota. Inbound they come to Street, and he's rejected. No foul. That surprised me. Hurley on the drive. Follow up by Thomas Hill.
And here's a semi-run. Important for Iowa now to get a good shot selection on this possession.
8-2, Billy, to start the second half.
That should be an A.C. Earl foul.
They call it on Parks, however. That's only the 3rd foul of the game called against Duke.
I'll tell you why. Parks had position. A.C. came down and used his upper body. Now watch this. Here's Parks. Now watch A.C. Earl. He's the one that's creating the contact, not Parks.
The officials have called a timeout. Duke comes storming out in the second half and takes the 6-point lead. Mike Krzyzewski, Sporting News named him 92 Sportsman of the Year. And look at him among active coaches in the NCAA tournament. 33-7 is his record. And Denny Crum, you see, 4th. Denny Crum checked out of the hospital today. He's been suffering from dehydration and the flu. Had to miss the Cardinals' last game, but will be back on the bench for a game today against Kansas. So we wish him well.
Cardinals, who made that great defensive play in the first half, turned his back on Thomas Hill, gave Grant Hill an opportunity to come up the sidelines. Would have been converted to an easy 2.
Smith, who grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where Thomas Hill grew up. Here's a pass over to Street.
Second time today they ran the play. The first time they got the lob option off it. That time Duke switched and it made a perfect situation for Street for the short jumper. It's a nice set because A.C. Earl requires so much concentration when he's holding the ball in that low post.
Lang over the top to Parks. Blocked by Street.
Yeah, I may start keeping my own count. That's got to be about 6 or 7 blocks today, and they only had 3 at halftime.
You know, last year in the tournament, they tied the school record with 10 blocks, and that loss to Duke was later broken in a game against Drake this season. Earl.
Nice.
A.C. Earl.
And here again, the press is taking Duke out of their offense. There's the break.
And they've got the numbers, Billy, over to the wing to Hill.
But see, Hill's got to be prepared to shoot the jumper on that particular play. Duke has not busted through that press very much today, and there was one opportunity they didn't take advantage of it.
Duke 36-34. 14:30 remaining in the game. Grant Hill underneath. Tough play. Yep. pass just too much velocity on it for Parks to handle it.
I think Grant Hill thought he was going to be able to drive under there and dunk. Iowa did a good job switching and not giving him an opportunity to shoot.
Murray comes in replacing Winters. Marty Clark for Duke. Antonio Lang will sit. Also Lookingbill is in for Iowa.
Now, Iowa did a good job in the first half when they went to their bench. Their bench ran the offense very effectively and actually turned it around for them to get back into the lead.
Lookingbill blocked by Grant Hill. Quick outlet to Hurley. Taking on Smith.
Lookingbill over the back.
Yep.
You know, we talk about the transition game, and everybody always thinks the transition from defense to offense. But equally important is the transition going the other way, you know, from your offensive end back on defense. And I think Iowa today is doing that as well as anybody I've seen play Duke in recent years. They've just not given them any easy baskets on the break or even on the semi-break. There's that 1-2-2 zone again. Bartle's responsibility to go all the way to the corner if he has to allow A.C. Earl to stay under the basket. Watch if the ball goes to the corner. There goes Bartles. He shifts back inside.
A.C. Earl reached in and knocked it out.
See, that would be a call between Earl and Bartles on that play. Bartles ready to go to the corner. A.C. called him off. Duke could take advantage of that particular switch.
Thomas Hill will fire the three. 5-point lead for Duke. Smith in transition. And the reset.
It's that bounce pass on the perimeter. Something Tom Davis very famous for and has been for years. Back to his BC days.
Earl open 10-footer. Thomas Hill outdoing Bartles for the rebound.
He was lucky there, not turning it over. Boy, Bobby Hurley could get some backdoor cuts on Smith, but he just wants to hold the ball out there because Smith is overplaying him for the pass. It's a little box offense by Duke.
Hill.
Double pump.
Drawing the foul and heading to the line for two. Near the conclusion of this game, we will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet donates a $1,000 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of each school. Foul against Murray. Street and Webb. 42 Webb, 40 Street in for Iowa. Lang back for Duke. And Parks will sit.
Well, Mike Krzyzewski realized
also.
Sure, you put down Earl, so Mike says, look, I'm going to go ahead and give Parks an opportunity to get a little breather as well.
Barnes comes in.
You know, Jim, what's interesting about Earl is his great shot blocking ability, but the guy only fouls about 1.3 fouls per game. So even though he's extremely active getting up there on the ball, he doesn't get himself on the bench with the fouls.
Hasn't fouled out of a game since his freshman year. Montier Glasper also in for Iowa. Hill will shoot one more.
Who's a man that never fouled out of a game? Major player.
Kareem.
No. Wilt.
Is it Wilt? Yeah,
Wilt Chamberlain never fouled out of a game. You talk about a shot blocker there.
Points for Thomas Hill. That's tops for Duke today, and the Blue Devils lead by 6.
Lead by 6, but don't seem to be able to pull away. Not yet, anyway. Nice overplay by Clark. Good backdoor cut. And a nice switch that time by Hill.
Street saved it.
But we're seeing some outstanding defense now. Just as I say that, there's a foul. But that was just great defense by Duke for that segment.
Lang called for that one. You know, Iowa's not unaccustomed to winning here at Tobacco Road, Billy. Remember a couple of years ago? I know you were there for North Carolina and Iowa.
The famed who's the free throw shooter game.
At the very end.
That's right.
98-97 Iowa final. One of only 2 non-ACC teams to win at Carolina's new Dean Dome. Not so new anymore, I guess. but underneath is Webb for the follow. Offensive rebounding-wise, Iowa is tough. And they get it. Yep. They get it back. Yes.
See, what's also tough now is Lang, not one of the better ball handlers for Duke. With that assignment, Street takes advantage of it.
We have an official's timeout. Duke leading by 4. Still 5 of 7 from the floor. Duke has turned it over only 6 times. 40-36 Duke. And during the timeout, Billy, what was Mike Krzyzewski talking to his team about?
You remember that little offensive set we talked about where A.C. Earl threw the lob one time and then hit Street for the step back on the switch the last time? He is reminding his team how to defend that particular little triangle 3-man play. You win 80-some% of your NCAA tournament games, you don't miss many tricks, you know. Hasn't been able to get untracked offensively, but he's been a big second-half scorer for Iowa. Marty Clark on him now. I'd try to let Barnes touch the ball in a good offensive position. See what he can do on Clark.
Well, they've got 10 on the shot clock. Freshman at the controls. Glasper. Oh,
yep. Too late to get it to the man you want. Good job by Glasper. He does a better job on that than Smith because he's got the scoring threat.
Brings them within 2. 40-38. Duke.
You know, Street has done a nice job on Grant Hill today when you consider Grant hasn't been able to take over as he did even in the losing cost at Georgia Tech.
Clark was posting up Barnes, who had a wrap around him, so they'll call him for the foul. Foul on Barnes. His second.
Jim, there,
4th team foul of the second half.
There you have the case of Duke taking advantage of the superior size Clark has on Barnes. Now let's see if Iowa takes advantage on the other end. Barnes' quickness over Clark.
A.C. Earl back in. Hey, I mentioned the yellow uniforms for Iowa.
Yeah, why didn't they wear them at Indiana?
Good question. I bet they regret
about
they
big games. I mean, you say if you're going to wear them only in the big games, you got to. Big Ten games are bigger than this.
You know who designed these uniforms? A.C. Earl designed them the last 2 years. That might sound like a former Marquette player, Billy.
That's right.
Bo Ellis.
Bo now an assistant coach, and I think that hit off of Clark's leg. There's Earl's block. Now that's 2 we know in the second half, right? Clark goes up. Earl said not here.
Coaches meeting at the scorers table.
Now, what they're talking, what Tom Davis is talking about, why is the shot clock put back up there? It was a good defensive play.
Shot clock says 44.
It says 44. In other words, they put it back. They put time back on the clock when it was a good defensive play by Iowa. Tom Davis asking them why did they get the new 45? Now this is something they can change, and Tom Davis is right on it. The doctor. Jim, we talk about the great winning percentages in the NCAA tournament. Tom's been there 7 times, never lost an opening round game.
Twice he's taken teams to the Final 8, right on the brink of the Final 4. Boston College in '82 lost to Houston.
Right.
And then in '87, his Iowa team lost to UNLV out west.
Chance to tie it.
Street driving, gives it up. Murray missed, but Earl on the follow, and a foul against Thomas Hill. You know, Iowa has more offensive rebounds on the season than their opponent has defensive rebounds. That's incredible.
That's right. And the thing about it is they are so effective in technique rebounding and positioning, 2 hands on the ball. It's not that they have such great size. It's the fact that the offensive rebounding becomes one of their best scoring patterns. Just put the ball on the boards and go get it. They score so well off it. There's Barnes.
Barnes could have tied it. Murray on the follow does.
Another offensive rebound.
Yep. Parks is back in for Clark. 40-40. We near the midway point of the second half.
Well, you gave that stat, Jim, of what Duke had done, the blaze out in the second half against previous opponents.
That was in the first 5 minutes. Right. They did go 8-2 here.
But Iowa has done something in both halves that are critical when you play on the road, and that is to keep a team out of that run at the start of a half, both halves, and they did it.
Lang now has 6. Duke back in front. Glasper. Oh, that's way off. And rebound by Grant Hill. Up ahead to Lang.
Take it in.
Lang. 2 straight baskets for Antonio Lang.
That's what Mike Krzyzewski's looking for. Some point production from Lang and Parks to take the load off of the 3H men. Oh, Hill got hit.
Yep, Murray inside, and no call. Parks has it for Duke.
See if the referee calls timeout. He does. Grant Hill got hit in the eye. Does not want to come out. Right in the eye.
Yeah, left side of your screen, and now centered. You see Hill, but he's fine, and Hill inbounded for Duke. He doesn't want to have to wear the goggles like Parks. Parks had to go through 7 or 8 pairs before he found the right fit at the start of this season.
There's an offensive settle work against that press. And look at how well Iowa gets back on defense and takes away the transition basket. AC Earl with another block.
Winters is in for Iowa, number 23, and Looking Bill will come in on the next whistle. Hill from the free throw line.
Jim, you know another thing Iowa has done very well today that they didn't do, obviously, against Indiana and Ohio State in those losses, and that is defend the 3. You know, Duke just hasn't had many wide open opportunities to shoot the 3.
Earl traveled. 6 unanswered for the Blue Devils, and they have the basketball.
And watch this set that Duke is setting up right now. A little box and try to break out of it. AC Earl comes all the way up to the half-court area. Bobby Hurley didn't break as he did on the last one. Grant Hill back at the point for a while. It gives Hurley a rest.
Did you ever expect this game would be so low scoring?
No, I really didn't.
Earl knocks it out of there, but to Parks. Iowa basketball.
I think that fatigue is going to enter into this factor, Jim, and we talk about what does Duke have tomorrow? An undefeated team to play right here on this court.
Virginia.
Yep.
Virginia. Oh, that lob way too high.
Trying to make a play that wasn't there.
Hill. He'll shoot 2. Foul on Winters, his second. Well, Duke trying to extend the home streaks, 35 straight overall, having lost last here to Carolina March the 4th of 90, and 77 straight against non-ACC opponents. They struggled in their last non-ACC game here at home. That was against Oklahoma 2 weeks ago.
No, another good ball club. You know, it's not that they're playing any patsies. I mean, Oklahoma's going to be a solid NCAA tournament team. Iowa will be as well, and part of Mike Krzyzewski's scheduling strategy. If you want to find out how good you are, these are the same type of games you've got to play and win in the NCAA tournament run.
Had to go to overtime to beat Oklahoma. Webb is into the Iowa lineup, and Street has returned also. Hill will shoot one more. Marty Clark for Lang into the Duke lineup.
But Jim, you know, we talk about Duke now, and everybody knows the great program they have, but the 8 years after Vic Bubas, who had the great 10-year run of his own, they had 3 different coaches. They had 3 losing seasons during that period and went to no NCAA tournament. So it's not like they haven't had periods of being down.
An officials timeout. Duke by 7 in CBS Sports coverage of NCAA basketball. We'll continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Final Four is sponsored by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. Charles Schwab and Company, maybe it's time to come to Schwab. And by Pizza Hut, sometimes you gotta stop and smell the pizza.
Well, next Saturday, we're going to the desert. We're going to check in UNLV under the controls of Rolly Massimino as UNLV takes on Georgetown. Thompson and Massimino, two coaches from the '85 final. Here on CBS, 4 o'clock next Saturday. Looking forward to that one.
First chance to see Othello Harrington, considered by most as the top big man to come into the college game this year, and he is proving to be every bit of that in his competition so far.
Duke is on a 7-0 run to match its largest lead of the game. It was 15-8 in the first half. The last time they were up 7, and then Iowa went on a 14-point tear. Underneath, somehow it dropped. That was Winters.
Let's see if they're going to count the basket.
Yes.
Yes.
Score the basket for James Winters, who has been hobbled or hobbling lately because of a back injury suffered against Ohio State last Saturday. Missed a couple of practices. Only played 10 minutes in the game against Minnesota, but looked pretty strong on that one.
He's had 12 starts this year. It was a set play, a lob over where he's working on Clark inside. That's some power move in there. That was a big basket, Jim, and I'll tell you why. I think if Duke had gotten possession of the ball with a 7-point lead, you would have seen them go into that semi-delay game of theirs that they do so well.
Instead, the lead is 4. Street is called for the reach-in.
A little bit too early to be thinking about that. Duke's only been in the foul line 11 times today. 5 for 11. Not characteristic of their teams. They average 20 a game so far in the year.
That was the second against Street, number 6 in the second half against Iowa. The next one will be a 1-and-1. Now there's a play where Hill could feel the 5 count coming on, and he just bounced it off a Street. That's something that Krzyzewski coached him on yesterday.
Yeah, but what Grant has got to do if he's going to use that maneuver is get out of the way, because the ball comes back and hits him.
On the break, Webb coming after him, and he got the rejection. Parks follows, however. Great timing by Webb, but no one there to help him out from the Iowa team.
Well, the reason for it is Barnes fell down, he slipped, and that gave Hurley the opening, and he couldn't get back down court to pick up the miss.
49-43, Duke with 7:20 to go. Street in the lane. Back down to 4.
And that was right over a tired Grant Hill.
Grant Hill.
That's his range.
Too strong. 2 Iowa players battling for it.
A smart play by Barnes, realizing it was a teammate. He got out of there.
Smith stuck. Hill reached in and called for the foul. Looked pretty clean.
Quick hands, but Smith gives up about, 10 inches on Hill, and it was just too long a reach for Grant Hill. We'll see the breakaway. You can see where Barnes fell down. It gave Hurley the breakaway. And see, Barnes normally would be the guy coming in behind to get this rebound, but he didn't hustle his way, and Cherokee Parks did. Easy basket. There's
going for an easy one on the inbounds pass, and a rejection by Hill, who has just been hit with his second foul. And a 3, no good by Barnes. Lang comes out with it for Duke on the outlet to Hurley. No basket.
Wow, you start talking about continuous motion. It does not have to be out of his hand. Bobby Hurley better be careful. He threw the ball down on the floor, could have picked up a tee. Now watch this. See, that is continuous motion. It should have counted as a basket. He had started his motion for the shot and then got fouled.
Instead, Billy, he'll shoot a 1-and-1. That's the 7th team foul against Iowa.
Well, all in all, these guys have done a good job on this game. We mentioned at the top of the show, they're Big Ten officials. But I don't think he got that one accurate.
Boys, Duke is 5 for 12 from the free throw line. They were under 50% when they let Oklahoma take them to overtime from the line. Earl, that puts Iowa within 2.
You talk about a major turnaround there. Missed the front end of the 1-on-1. Don't get the basket.
Could have been a three-point play.
Sure.
6 minutes remaining. 49-47 Duke.
Starting to use some clock and save Bobby Hurley from handling the ball all the time, with putting it in Grant Hill's hands.
Parks. Nice move. He worked all summer on that low post move, and credits assistant coach Pete Gaudette with really helping him out with that power move.
Don't you think A.C. Earl expected him to dribble across the lane on that? Just got faked out a little.
Earl wants to come back and show him something. Too strong. Thomas Hill hit in the face by Winters.
Winters is strong.
Third on Winters.
What he tried to do here, he didn't have the rebound. He tried to shock the ball out of Hill's hands. You see, he just tries to shock it out of there. And of course, because he's so strong, he drives Thomas Hill right to the floor.
So 1-and-1 coming up for Thomas Hill.
What are they now, 5 for 12?
5 for 12. Hill is 3 out of 6 from the line. He has today, Thomas Hill, moved past Robert Brickey on the Duke all-time scoring list to move into the top 20. If he makes both of these, he'll move into 19th and surpass Tate Armstrong, former Olympian from Duke. 1-1. He'll shoot one more.
You know, Jim, think of last night. Duke has a situation where they have to make, 5 in a row on their free throw shooting, and everybody rotates on the team, and they had to go through a whole number of series to get to that point. And today, again, they're not shooting very well from the free throw line.
Hill moves past Armstrong on the Duke scoring list. He's tops today, tops with 18, and Duke's lead is now 6. Webb. Good move by Webb. And off Hurley. Iowa forces the turnover. Credit Val Barnes.
Bobby Hurley did not realize Barnes was behind him. Mike Krzyzewski goes for the timeout.
Duke timeout with 5:09 remaining. 53-49 Blue Devils. Tomorrow on CBS, the NFC Championship game, Dallas and San Francisco. It all starts with the NFL today at 3:30 Eastern time. You know, Billy, our Emmy award-winning producer and director, Bob Dekas and Bob Fishman, have been trying to sell you on the idea of a syndicated television show called Ask Billy. So let me present it to the nation. What about that game tomorrow?
No. You're not getting me into that one. I have a hard enough time with this round ball. How about the oblong?
You've already given George Toma the MVP.
Yeah, but I know something about grass. I don't know anything about football.
All right, Smith pulls him back out, down 4.
I think they'd like to run that little set where they either go for the lob on a solid screen to get the double low.
Winters with the 3.
There.
Webb had position underneath, but Parks just out-muscles him for the rebound. And a foul called against Winters.
Yeah, Parks did a number of things there. Great effort to get the rebound, and then real smart thinking on his part. After he got the rebound, realized there was no place to go and he was going to walk, so he put it down on the floor. Watch him right here. No place to go. He's going to fall off balance, so he puts it right on the floor to get out of traffic. Excellent play.
That's 4 against Winters. Murray and Earl return for Iowa, replacing Webb and Winters.
And normally you tell a big guy do not put the ball down on the floor under the other team's basket, but it was the only way Parks could clear himself in the pack.
He'll shoot a 1-and-1. He lifts the goggles above the eyes while shooting free throws. Billy, we were talking about those goggles before. He had to go through 7 or 8 pair of goggles before he could find one that was just right. And then he had a fogging up problem, and they found a solution to resolve that problem. He says, I still can't wait till the doctors say everything's fine. The scratch from the back of the eye has healed, and I won't wear them anymore.
Now gets into it. There's that set. Murray falls down.
Must be a wet spot on the floor back there, Billy, because an official fell, too. That really brought the crowd to life even more. Murray. Lang got a hand on it, but Earl saves it. 20 on the shot clock. A little far outside for Earl. Barnes misses, and Hill with the rebound.
He's got to look long. They can get a basket here.
3 on 2. Thomas Hill.
Jim, what made that and what Duke has not been doing all day? When they do get an opportunity to break, they got to fire it long. They've been throwing short passes, giving Iowa a chance to retreat on defense.
And Duke has its largest lead of the game. 8-point lead with 3:25 to go.
Iowa being patient.
Good drop-in pass to Earl. Clean stuff by Parks.
And now Duke will start playing that game where they pull it on out, and Iowa will have to play some kind of tight man-to-man. Here they come out to pick up early. Early on Hill. They've got to come out and play, because Duke will let that clock go down to the 12-second mark, because they have 3 guys that can finish off the play. With 2 Hills and Hurley. And you can see Hurley doesn't have to handle the ball here. He gets a chance to get a 30-second rest on every possession. They let Grant Hill be the man.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Hill able to stay in the air long enough to give himself an extra second and get the shot off.
That was a la Michael Jordan type move. You go up once and they're in the way. You pump it twice and pump it the 3rd time.
He will shoot 2. It was against Murray, his 3rd. Funny you would say that about Grant Hill and calling it a Michael Jordan type move. And Billy, I'm really not into hyping guys or building them up, but I think that one day Grant Hill could be the successor to Michael Jordan as the true superstar of the NBA. He's that kind of talent. Timeout called by Iowa. Well, Billy, you're a big fan of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, starring Jane Seymour, and tonight Johnny Cash will guest star, followed by Raven and Hat Squad. That's tonight on CBS, and I say Hat Squad. I'm not talking about these gentlemen. It's not their series.
They certainly could qualify.
But Duke's own version of the Hat Squad. Grant Hill at the line for 2 shots, Billy. As we were going to break, I was paying a major compliment to this kid about his unlimited future.
I think the one thing that, and of course we never saw the total Michael Jordan offensive game until he really became a member of the Olympic team in terms of his outside range. I would say the one thing that Grant Hill would have to do, I mean, there's many things that compare anybody with Jordan, but is he has to be able to show you he can hit that downtown jumper the way Michael can, and then the other parts of his game are pretty solid.
You see him as a star in the NBA?
Oh, without question.
Yeah, no doubt. Street. Oh, scoops it in.
And there's a guy who can play in the NBA, too.
That cut the Duke lead from 10 to 8, but only 2:20 remaining. They double up Thomas Hill.
But nobody going long. See, the play has to be long, not backwards. Cherokee Parks didn't get to the spot. They had a 3-on-1 against A.C. Earl and couldn't go long.
Duke called a timeout, saying that Hill was in trouble. 2:19 remaining. It's 1 timeout remaining, and he'll be inbounding in the backcourt. 5 seconds to get the ball across midcourt.
And Jim, that last time, Tom Davis, for the 3rd time today between Coach Davis and Coach Krzyzewski, they pointed out to the officials that the shot clock was not accurate. That particular time, Duke had gotten the ball in bounds and then had to call a timeout, and 45 was still shown on the shot clock. Dr. Tom went out, got the referee's attention, and there was the error was corrected, so it's down now to 40 seconds.
Street guarding the inbounds pass to Parks. Now they've got 2 seconds to get it across. Oh, they're correct with the timeout.
With the timeout, Jim, they get another 10.
And Hurley, Duke suddenly warming up from the free throw line when they needed it. They've made their last 6.
The dangerous pass that Bobby Hurley threw cross court. Kenyon Murray right out there.
Lang on the drive. He'll challenge. Oh, wow.
Again, are we seeing some signs of life today from the 2 fellas in this starting lineup that have been quiet? And if Duke is going to return to the Final Four, it's Lang and Parks that have to do the job. And there's Lang with another huge play. Parks has had a number of them. He shocked A.C. Earl by taking it right to him.
Dunked right on him. Now remember, Antonio had an air ball earlier in this game from the line, trying to complete the three-point play. This time he makes it. 11-point lead, under 2 minutes to go. Smith. And Lang gets the long rebound.
See Duke not looking to break here. And they'll take off some clock.
Oh, a foul away from the ball. Smith just pushed early. Right at the Duke bench. Granthill doesn't like it either. He comes in to defend his teammate.
Well, that's just a matter of frustration on Smith's part. He is not a big scorer. He and Bobby Hurley have been jawing on each other. I think Smith has been thrown from the game. Now Hurley needs to sit down on the bench, and Mike Krzyzewski knows it. You'll see right here, these two have been jawing with each other for quite some time. Now you'll see them. They're walking up the sidelines. Hurley getting a little best of it, and then all of a sudden Smith gives him the push, and that's not going to fly. He's going to sit.
And they've now called a technical on Smith. Very much of a delay in calling that, but
it's deliberate. So Bobby Hurley, with his experience, should have just sat down, stayed out of the confrontation.
And to cool his team, Krzyzewski calls a timeout. We'll join him.
We were trying to solve the mystery.
A little bit, and you were talking about football. How about the game we're going to have coming up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Michigan at Iowa. You know, we've had the crowd involvement in this game. Certainly the score not indicative of how well Iowa has played today, at least at this point, being down 11.
That's on Super Sunday on January 31st. Now, after the deliberate foul on Smith, Hurley will shoot two. He has not scored in the second half. Had 11 in the first half. 0 for 5 from the floor in the second stanza, but he'll get one more.
Well, you know, in that great second half he had against Wake Forest on Wednesday night, he scored 20. The entire Wake Forest team scored 26.
25 overall for Hurley in that game.
And Mike Krzyzewski said he never saw anybody possessed as Hurley was in that game. He just wanted to touch him to see what that energy felt like. Triple team, somebody's got to be open.
And they got the steal. They lead it to Winters. Can't handle it.
Lang again with a great play.
He was the lone Duke player to cut back. Now they triple up Thomas Hill again.
See, what Iowa's figuring right now is Duke is not going to try to score, so they're taking all kinds of chances. I think Duke's got to take advantage of an easy basket. Here they go.
Hill wants to go to the hole like Lang, but this time it's Iowa basketball on the rebound. Hurley on the steal.
He'll work the clock.
Under a minute remaining.
That streak continues, Jim.
Yep, they will now have that streak run to 36 straight overall and tie North Carolina State's ACC record of 36 overall wins in a row at home, set by Norm Sloan's bunch back from 72 through 75. And Krzyzewski will move past Sloan on the all-time ACC victory list with, well, that could happen tomorrow. That's ACC victories if he beats Virginia. He's tied right now with Sloan. Bartle's in for Iowa. Winters will sit.
A lot of people forget that everybody remembers the David Thompson club that won the national championship, but the year before they were just as good. We turned everybody off of that team. So they had a tremendous run in that 2-year period. Actually, in his entire career, 3-year period.
14-point lead. Chris Collins comes in. Hurley gets the ovation.
Well, he played all but 50 seconds. He's got some kind of stamina.
Earl. Timeout called by Iowa before they could inbound it. 37 seconds remaining from Duke's 37 seconds away from Duke's 36th straight win at home.
You know, Jim, two outstanding teams here today, no question about it. Two of the better teams in the United States and two of the best leagues in the United States. In the last 10 years, you've got the ACC with 33 Sweet 16 appearances. That leads the nation. The Big Ten right behind them with 23 and the Big East with 22. A game like today when they're sitting in that room, you know what it helps in addition to these teams? It helps that 5th, 6th, and 7th guy in the conference to see the quality of play in leagues of this caliber.
Kenny Blakeney. And Hill will go to the line to shoot 2. Okay, let's show you now, updating those streaks. 78 straight non-ACC opponents have lost here.
They're not but about 50 away from the all-time record held by the University of Kentucky, which is hard to imagine. But, you know, in this day and age, considering the competition from top to bottom in various leagues and the way people play intersectional matchups of this type of magnitude, you have to consider the time and era of the way college basketball is played. And that takes nothing away from what Adolph Rupp's clubs did.
The rest of the season, non-ACC opponents here at Cameron will be San Francisco and UCLA. 2 more. Now, 1 more free throw for Hill. Eric Meek is into the Duke lineup. That's off of Earl. Kenny Brown comes in. What a great story he is. Number 14, Kenny Brown, replacing Thomas Hill. Brown was the manager on the women's basketball team at Duke the last 2 years and won a tryout against 77 others on November the 1st. And he's a member of this team, managing the women's basketball team a year ago. Eric Meek.
Nice left hand.
Left hand tipped in. Tony Moore tried to do it. And the ball is stuck. Good-looking freshman, number 30, in for Duke. Tony Moore, we'll be seeing him through the rest of his career, contributing to this Duke team, although not seeing a lot of action his first year. Bartles with a 3. Blakeney. And a foul called against Iowa.
The foul, he should have to shoot the free throw. The horn did not sound. I think the referee is going to say it's too late, however, but he did get fouled before the buzzer sounded. They won't shoot it.
So the final score is Duke 65 and Iowa 56. Duke is now 12-1 on the year. Iowa drops to 12-3. And the Chevrolet players of the game are Chris Street from Iowa with his 14 points, 8 rebounds. And Cherokee Parks, Billy, for Duke. 8 points, 8 rebounds. You like the way he played?
I really did. He did a great job on AC Earl today and on the boards. Outstanding performance.
So for Billy Packer and Andrea Joyce, this is Jim Nance saying so long from Durham, North Carolina, where the final score is Duke 65, Iowa 56. Duke can beat Virginia tomorrow. They'll be #1 on Monday. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports, home of the NCAA Basketball Championship.
Play Big Ten power Iowa today, undefeated Virginia tomorrow. We play the games one at a time. Let's go to Rick Sullivan at Cameron Indoor Stadium for the story on the just concluded battle with the Hawkeyes.
Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski not in the mood for referees this afternoon. He starts working them early. Thomas Hill cans the first 2 points for the Blue Devils against Iowa, but that's all they get for more than 5 minutes. This is a game for players willing to get dirty. No California dreaming for the Chief. Cherokee Parks makes some big plays on defense, but Big Ten Defender of the Year AC Earl is one tough Hawkeye. He starts the break with a reject, and Kevin Smith takes it to the hoop. Duke gets a trio of 3-pointers in a row. Bobby Hurley knocking them all in, and the Devils lead 15-8. But Iowa kicks in the 4-barrel. Val Barnes throws in 6 unanswered points. Iowa scores 12 in a row before Coach K works the refs one too many times. The T is delivered, but Duke ends the Iowa run at 14 in a row. The game tied at half, 28-28. Second half, Duke's going to turn up the heat a bit. Hurley to Grant Hill for the slam. Then Hurley on the open court. Rejected, but Parks is there to help out. 49-43 Duke. More fast break. Hurley works it. Thomas Hill scores it. 57-49 Duke. Finally, the clincher with 1:51 to play. Tony Lang, a three-point play. Duke by 11 at that point. The Devils over the Hawkeyes tonight, 65-56. Rick Sullivan, WRAL TV5 Sports.
Game, and I'm not sure you can play harder, more physical than that ball game. That was unbelievable.
Okay, Virginia now 3-0 in the ACC. So that game between Duke and Virginia, mighty big. Duke, of